Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to create something like this. So you have a content box and I can say, hello, this is Twitter. And then we can add our little bird emoji. And then we can say name is Bob. Oh, we have autocomplete on this one. And then you can click send. You'll see Bob, hello, this is Twitter. I probably should fix that, but we're not going to do that right now. And you'll see that it sends it with a timestamp, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, how are we gonna do this? Well, we're gonna create this today. We're gonna be using Express. I'm gonna create a database. It's gonna be super cool. Let's get started. I already have created a new repository for it. So yeah, let's just get started. Firstly, what we want to init. I'm going to be using Yarn. You can also use something like NPM if you know what? Are we going to use NPM for this? I like Yarn a little more, but, yeah, we're going to use Yarn. We're going to use NPM. Why not? So we can use NPM, and then we can install Express and NetDB. Like this, and then we can also, install as a dev dependency nodemon or node daemon. I'm not really sure, but yep. There you go. So now if we go into our Twitter thing, you'll see this. We already have a script tag set up. We just need to I'm just gonna link nodemon period to this, and then we can also create a start, which is just going to be node period. To run it, you can now do npm run dev. It's just gonna run it, and there you go. It's gonna be hey, there's no index.html, or yeah, I'm gonna change this to server.js, and we can create our server.js. That should get rid of all the errors, like that. Yep. So we can require express as require express, and then can require app to be express, and then we can say app.use express.static, and that's going to be our public folder. And we're going to be doing this differently than I did in the previous tutorials. We are going to be doing this in this tutorial. We are going to be using we are only going to be using our public folder. We're going to host, because we don't have special URLs for rooms and stuff like that. It's just going to be the same URL, so we can just use our public folder. So we can say public/index.html, like this, and you can press exclamation point tab, and then we can give it a title of something like Twitter, and then we can add our little bird thing here. I use this, so I tried to make this tutorial 3 times, so it's in my recent stuff. So yeah. So I'm gonna say Twitter. I'm gonna make this h1 u I'm gonna use, and we can also add an h4 being send message. Now if you view this, it's gonna be like this. It doesn't really look that good. So we are gonna be using a CSS library. You can use stuff like Bulma, which is pretty good. I just don't really know how it works, so I'm going to be using Skeleton, which has this whole thing. It's super cool. It's pretty lightweight, and we're gonna use this from CDN.js and just copy the link. I'm gonna use the min version because it's just, you don't need to use the max version. You can do link, and yeah. The only thing that min version means is that there are no enters in between stuff. So, yeah. Now if we do this and you press F5, it's gonna say, it's just gonna be a little nicer. Now if you say style, like this, we're gonna say H1, and we're gonna say text align center. Like this, and F5, it's gonna be in the center. There you go. So now we're gonna create a form. And then we're going to create 2 inputs. We're going to create one input with an ID of content. One input with an ID of name. and one input or a button with the class of button or a button primary. Press tab, and we're gonna give it submit as content. And at F5, you got yourself a button with 2 input fields. Oh, button primary is also a class of skeleton. We could get rid of it, but it looks better with. If we get rid of it, it's not gonna be that nice blue color. So yeah. So what we're gonna be doing now is just making it look a little nicer. So yeah, let's get started. Firstly, we're gonna say hashtag content is going to have a width of 100%, and then hashtag name is going to be having what do we want that to be again? We want to have that a margin right of 1 rem, which you don't have to do that, but it just adds a little spacing between the button and the thing. Also, please just turn off autocomplete. I'm not sure why it's standard. Its standard is to be on. I don't like it. Also, we're gonna give it a placeholder. This one's gonna be name, and this one's gonna have a placeholder of content. So F5, and there you go. We got this. We're not really sending messages just yet, but we're gonna get to that real quick. So we're gonna create send messages.js, which is just gonna be an HTML file, which is gonna send our messages for us. Which we could reference by doing this, and then say send message.js. Like that. Now we say so we want to select our form, and we want to select our name input, which we could be like const name input main document dot query selector, and that's gonna be hashtag name to select the thing with the ID of name, and then content input, which is gonna be document dot query selector. Query selector is gonna be hashtag content. And now what we can say is we can say form.add event listener, which is going to be if it's submitted, and we're going to grab that event in a new function. And then we say, firstly, please prevent the default, or else it's going to put you like to that question mark website. I'm not sure why, but yeah. Probably for like, I believe you can probably also post with just normal with the form, but I'm not. I'm going to use some extra JavaScript with. Yeah. So we're gonna say, hey, if you have a content value and you have a name value, well then you're valid and you can send stuff. Else we want to say, if you have no content input dot value, we want to alert add content into content field. And this almost the same thing for our name. Name input value like that. Alert. Add a name into name field. Like that. And now if we try to send something without a name, it's say add in content into input field and add a name. So yeah. Now what we can say is is going to be we want to post something. What is posting? And we're also gonna handle what is getting. Posting is sending something to the server. Getting is getting something from the server. And we want to post something. We want to post a new message. We want to send a new message to the server. So we say const options is going to be method. What kind of method do we want to use? We want to use a post method. We want to send to the server. There are some more things that we need to do. We want to have a headers, which is going to have what kind of content do we want to have? Well, we want to have a content type of JSON, which we can do by saying application slash JSON. And last but not least, we want to add a body. So this is virtually gonna be our it's going to be our input. It's gonna be what we are sending. So we want to send our content, which is gonna be content input dot value, comma, name in, and then we want to send a name, which is going to be name input dot value, and we want to send a time, which is going to be a new date dot get time. And we want to parse this, so we want to say JSON dot stringify, and then we want to stringify all of this. There you go. Now, if we go here and we listen, and then we want to send this, we're going to post this to some kind of URL. And to do that, we want to wait until it's done. So we want to make this asynchronous, and we want to empty our content input.values before we do that, because it's just quicker, and we already got them saved in our body, so we don't need them anymore. Now input.value is going to be none, and then we can say await fetch to some kind of URL which we need to define, but we're gonna call it like slash send underscore message, and that's gonna be with our options. And now if we go here, we say app.post slash send underscore message, and we say request response, and we then say console.log the request.body. We can view it. We can be like content hello. Tweeter is looking pretty awesome. And I can call myself like Jeff, but it's not really working. Not sure why it's not emptied. Hello, Tweeter is looking amazing. Amazing. My name is Jeff. There you go. Sent. If you look at the input, it's undefined. Why is it undefined? Well, because Express isn't parsing it to JSON by default. We need to, so we want to set it to, so we want to make the Express parse it. So we can say app.use JSON, and then we want to add, you don't have to do this, I'm just going to add a limit of 1 megabyte. And now you can say it's going to work. It's going to be like content equals hello, Tweeter's looking amazing, name Jeff, time, and then you see the time. So this is pretty cool, but we want to save it to our database. We want to save it to a database so we can view it at a later point. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to say const data store. It's going to be a new, or it's going to be require netdb, and they're saying const database. Database is going to be a new data store with some kind of a name, which I'm going to call messages.db, and then we want to load that database. And now if we look here to the right, you'll see a messages.db. There's nothing in it yet because we're not inserting anything, but it's, what if we, instead of try inserting what if we try inserting it into the database instead of console.login? So we can say it's database.insert. What do you want to insert into the database? We want to insert our request.body, and we can say response.send status 200. There you go. It's not going to send anything in there yet, but if we say like content Tweeter is cool, and my name is Jeff, it's going to say Tweeter's cool, name Jeff, at some timestamp. Wow. So we want to create, now we want to make sure that I'm going to say like 2/3 of the way. We still need to create our message view page. So we can say like view or like messages like that, and we want to have an index.html in there. So we're going to do exclamation point tab, and that's going to be, so we want to call it tweeter, and then dash view messages. And then what we can do is we can add our h1 with tweeter on top, but there are a thing we want to add. We want to add here, we want to add a reference to the other page. So what I'm going to do is, can we close this? Keep it, close all. There you go. So what we can do is we can say, can add a header. So we can add a header like this with, say, like two h2 tags, and one is going to be send message, and the other one can be view message, or send message view messages. And then we can say here, this one's gonna be the home page, so just slash, so the local root, and this one can be messages. Press F5, there you go. That is a little big. It can be a little smaller, actually. Yeah, that's better. Now if we say form, justify content, space evenly, and then display flex, and then flex wrap equals wrap, you'll see that, does this need to go after it? I'm confused. Oh, that's what I meant to do. If we add flex wrap, if you're not sure what it does, don't worry too much about it, but it's going to make sure that if there's not enough room, it's just going to like enter it, which we can speed up a little. You don't have to. I am going to do this, but if you say header h3, then you can say margin like 0 to rem, which is just going to make it happen just a tad earlier, which is just gonna make it look a little cleaner. There you go. So that's that. And we can view messages. Very cool. I'm going to copy some things over, so we can copy over our we could copy over this like this. Weep. We can copy over our header, which is going to be very important because we want to go in between the pages. And 5, there you go. Can send messages, view messages, pretty cool. I'm gonna get rid of the name h and the content thing right here because it's not on this page, but there you go. Looks pretty clean. We want to view our messages, so we want to send a get request to the server. So we want to send here get message.js, and we want to link to it, so we can do that by going here, and we can say script source, and that's gonna be /messages / get msg.js. There you go. What now we can now do is we could start adding stuff. So we're gonna create an asynchronous function so we can use async. We can't, in a browser, we cannot use asynchronous functions in the root. So we need to always do that in a function, and if we create an unnamed function like this, that virtually works for us. So we can now use async in as long as we're here in this unnamed asynchronous function. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get const response is going to be wait fetch, and we want to say get underscore messages or / get underscore messages. And how are we gonna get it? Also the default method is get, so we don't have to add any options. And how are we gonna do that? So we want to go to our server, and then we want to say app.get / get underscore message, and that's gonna be a request and a response. So we want to look into our database. So how are we going to do that? We're going to say database, that's fine. And then we're going to grab all. Optimally, you want to not do that, but if you go into the netdb, how is that called? Oh, we want to call this error and data, sorry. But optimally, you want to go into the netdb and only show like the top 10, something like that. But what we're going to do right now is we're just going to send all. It's not ideal, but yeah. So we're first going to say, hey, if there's any error, get out of here. We don't want to do that. So we want to say, hey, console.log the error. We're going to say response dot, oh, that's going to be response like this, response dot send status 500, something went wrong. So it's like right here, some interval server error, something like that. And then we also want to end the request. If something went wrong, we want to end, and then we want to return get out of here. And yeah, there you go. That just handles an error, but we're expecting that we don't, so we can just say response dot send our data. And let's try and say, now we can parse it into JSON by saying const data is response.json. And let's try to console.log the JSON, or our data. And press F5. This is the moment of truth. Promise fulfilled. Status pending. Fulfilled. There you go. Tweeter is cool. Content tweeter is cool. Oh, that's super cool. So yeah, content tweeter is cool. I kind of like that. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to look through our data. So we're saying for let I is 0, I is less than data dot length, I plus plus. Now we want to create a container where we're going to put each element in. So we're going to say const container equals document dot create element, and then we want to create a div, and then we want to give that div an ID of like container $, I, something like that. And now what we can do is add stuff to this container. We're gonna add the container as last to the body, but first we want to add stuff to the container. First we're gonna add our name. So const name L is going to be document dot create element, which is I'm gonna make h5 edu, and then you can say name element dot inner text is going to be it's gonna be data index I dot name, and then we can give it name L an ID of name, and then we can append it to our container. So we're adding it to our container. Now we can add a content or a time element. How are we gonna do this? So we're gonna create a new time element, which is gonna be document dot create element. I'm gonna make this an h6, and now we're gonna say time element. What is this gonna be equal to? How are we gonna get this time and parse it into a date? So we want to say const time or a date is going to be new date with our data index I dot time times 1,000, like this. There you go. Now we can grab our so we can now say something like const hours is going to be equaling to date dot get hours, const minutes is going to be date dot get minutes. And now we can set the time element dot inner text to that. So we can say like $sign like this, and we can say no, this is firstly hours and then minutes, like that. And now we can append it to our container. I'm also gonna add a set the ID on this, so we can say like time L dot ID equals time, And as last but not least, we want to add the content, which is going to be document.createElement, which is going to be a P. And we want to give it an ID of content, and then we can say content.inner text is going to be data index I.content, and then we can append the container, or we can append it to the container, and then we can append the container to the body by saying document.body.append the container. This is a lot of work for adding our elements, but once we got it, it should be fairly straightforward. But I don't think we have anything in our data. No, we do. It's not really working at the moment. We're not awaiting response.json. That's not why it's not working. The child's rel 10 contain. This should be name L. Sorry, we're not. I'm guessing that's what we meant to do. Yeah, there you go. So Jeff, 22, 23. I don't think that's correct. If I say hello, Bob. Yeah. No, also not correct. Data I index I times 10 hours get hours. Time inner text. Right, what's wrong? I don't. It's also not that they're. Is it because we're sending it in the wrong data format? I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so we solved the problem. We don't need to do this times 1,000. It just works like this. So there you go. We got a timestamp. It's not really working how we wish. So I'm gonna get rid of E, which we can just do by going here and just removing it. Also, we're now lucky that no, like, view messages. Why is it? We aren't restarting the server for that for some reason. There you go. It's not really how you wish to do it, so let's kind of fix that. So let's go to our here, and we're going to say what do we want to say? We want to say our div h5, and we say display inline block. Or do we want to do that with the h6 element? Or do we need to do both? We need to do both to make that work. Okay, so we can also just change this to like hashtag time, hashtag name, like that. And I want to add to the name property. I want to add a margin left of 1 rem. You can also do it on the time property. Not margin left, margin right. You can also do it on the time property and then do it to the left, but we're going to do it on the thing. And the reason for that is that we want to add more elements to this. For example, we could add we want to make this bold, so we can say like font weight bold. There you go. And I want to make that h6. I want to make that one italic, so we can say font style italic. And there you go. It's gonna say like our message. We could do some extra styling. And one thing, I want to mimic the input styling as for the div. So I'm going to be copying some stuff. So I'm going to say here we're just gonna copy this right here. And just say div. We don't need the background color, like that. There you go. Now if we go to view messages, we got those outlines, which look pretty cool. And we can also add a margin bottom, like 1 rem or maybe 2. And that looks good. So it is very minimalistic, and I can like send something new to this, or I can be like, my name, hello, Twitter is looking amazingly good, and my name could be like Bob, Jeff, Kyle, and we can view the message, and there you go. But there's another thing. It's not sorting it by the time that's sent. I'm not really sure how it's sorting it by. I'm guessing it's sorting it by the first value that it gets. So like in our case, that's gonna be hello, Twitter's cool, hello, stuff like that. So like here, hello, Twitter, hello, so HTH, and it's doing it by that. So how are we gonna fix this? We can do by sorting it with expressions. So we can go here, we can say get message, and we can say data.sort, and we want to say a comma b, and we can make this a function, and we will say, hey, if a is greater than b, or we want to move it by 1, or by 1, we want to, if it's greater, we want to move it forwards, else if it's smaller, we want to move it backwards, so by -1, and if it's none of those, just make it 0, don't move it at all. There you go. And now if you do that, it's gonna it should do that sort. Oh, isn't it that's not really working. Oh, because we want to do that on the time, and we're not, so we want to sort them on the time value, and we're not doing that because I didn't think of adding time after them. So I'm not that smart. There you go. And now it's still sorting it, but it's sorting the wrong way, so we just need to just turn these around. 5, and now the newest is on top. That took way too long, but there you go. That's our Twitter. That's Twitter. It's extremely cool. Last time we used stuff like Socket. Now we're using a real database. I could actually open this on another instance, and we can view messages. It's exactly the same thing. Technically speaking, I could open on my iPad or on my iPhone. It would be exactly the same thing. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This was my 3rd attempt on recording this because I always found a way to screw things up. But if you enjoy, leave a like down below. I was thinking about creating a tutorial series on all my things with Node and stuff like that. If there's interest in that. Oh, I accidentally closed it off. But also, there are a lot of things you can improve. You could look through the NetDB code, or on npm or on Yarn, and you could see like how can we only send like the top 10. That would require us to already sort it before putting it in the database. And so you can grab the top 10, and you don't have to do that while doing stuff. So that could be one thing. You could find a way to send images, which seems very hard, but you could send them in grabbing a video element and then putting it onto a canvas and then encoding that in base64 and then sending that as a string. That could be something fun you can add to it. You could add more message variations. You could change this to a text area instead of an input. You could do 1,000 things. Yeah, so good luck, and I hope to see you in the next one.